Lily had always believed she understood the meaning of quiet, but nothing compared to the calm that filled the small neighborhood bookstore where she worked. Every morning, she unlocked the glass door, breathed in the mix of paper and coffee that drifted from the tiny cafe corner, and felt a sense of comfort settle on her shoulders. The store wasn't large, but it felt like a world of its own. Wooden shelves rising almost to the ceiling, warm yellow lights, and endless rows of English titles she wished she could read. She could understand only small pieces, single words here and there, and that made her feel like she was standing outside a party she desperately wanted to enter. Still, she loved the place. She loved the gentle piano music that played softly through hidden speakers, the way customers walked slowly as if trying not to disturb the stories sleeping on the shelves, and the careful organization of books by genre, author, and theme. Her boss, Mr. Harris, a kind man in his 60s with silver glasses and a soft voice, always said the store had a heart. "And you, Lily, keep it beating." She smiled every time he said that, though she didn't fully believe it. She was good at arranging displays, recommending books based on covers alone, and keeping everything tidy, but she felt like an imposter. Whenever customers spoke to her in English, she repeated the same few sentences she had memorized. "Hello, how can I help you? The cafe is in the back." "Yes, we have that book." If someone asked anything more complicated, she panicked and called for Mr. Harris. She wanted to learn, she really did, but English felt like a mountain too steep to climb. She had tried lessons, apps, videos, but nothing stuck. Words went into her mind and slipped out again like water through fingers. One rainy afternoon, when the soft tapping on the windows made the store feel even cozier, Lily was rearranging a table display of classic English novels. She picked up a thick blue book with gold letters on the cover, The Secret Hour. She didn't know the author, but the title felt mysterious, almost magical. She opened to the first page and immediately felt overwhelmed by the long sentences. Still, she traced the words slowly with her finger, trying to guess their meaning. She didn't hear Mr. Harris walk up behind her until he spoke. "Good choice," he said, smiling. She jumped a little and closed the book quickly, embarrassed. I can't read it," she admitted softly. "Not yet," he corrected gently. Then, to her surprise, he took the book from the table, placed it into her hands, and said, "Take it home. It's yours now." Lily blinked in confusion. "Mine? But why?" "Because you look at books the way readers look at doors they want to open," he said. "English isn't the lock. It's the key. And I think you're ready for your first key." She felt warmth spread through her chest, mixed with fear and excitement. "I don't know if I can finish it," she said honestly. Mr. Harris studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Then promise me you'll try," he said. "Promise you'll finish it, no matter how long it takes." The weight of the book in her hands suddenly felt heavier, not in a bad way, but in a meaningful, important way, like she had just been given a challenge from someone who believed in her more than she believed in herself. Lily swallowed, took a deep breath, and nodded. "I promise," she whispered. And that was the moment everything began to change, though she didn't realize it yet. She only knew she was walking home that evening through the rain, holding a book that felt like a door, a key, and a promise all at once. Lily placed the blue book on her desk the moment she got home, but for a long time she simply stared at it, unsure where to begin. The rain outside continued softly through the evening, tapping against the window like a gentle reminder of the promise she had made. She changed into comfortable clothes, made a cup of mint tea, and sat down in her small but cozy room. Her desk lamp cast a warm circle of light around the book, making it look important, almost sacred. Finally, she opened it to the first chapter. The words seemed to gather like a crowd staring back at her, waiting for her to make the first move. She read the first sentence slowly, pausing twice to look up unfamiliar words on her phone. The second sentence took even longer. After 10 minutes, she had read only half a page. Her tea had gone cold. She felt foolish and frustrated, wondering if she had made a mistake. "Maybe I'm not ready," she whispered to herself, rubbing her forehead. But then she remembered Mr. Harris's gentle voice. "Promise you'll finish it." She didn't want to disappoint him. More importantly, she didn't want to disappoint herself. So she tried again. This time she read out loud, hoping the sound of her own voice would help her understand better. She stumbled over pronunciation, repeated phrases, and whispered the same sentence 3 or 4 times until it made sense. It was exhausting. After an hour, she had only finished 3 pages. When she finally closed the book, she sighed with a mixture of pride and discouragement. 3 pages in an hour, she muttered. At this rate, I'll be 80 years old before I finish. But she reminded herself that progress was progress, no matter how slow. She wrote down 10 new words in a small notebook, repeating them quietly like tiny spells she hoped would stay in her memory. The next day at work, the bookstore felt different. She passed shelves of English books and felt a strange mixture of fear and determination. She greeted customers, arranged displays, made coffee, and tried not to think about how many pages she had left to read. During lunch, she opened the book again, but this time something surprising happened. She understood a little more than the day before. Not much, but enough to make her heart lift. One sentence flowed into the next without needing to stop every few seconds. It wasn't perfect, but it was better. And better felt like a small victory. Still, the process was slow. Each evening she read as much as she could, sometimes 2 pages, sometimes 5. On difficult days, she barely managed 1. But she kept going. She learned to guess meanings from context instead of translating every single word. She discovered that the main character of the book was a young girl who discovered a secret hour hidden between one part of the night and the next, a strange time when the world changed in magical ways. Lily loved the idea, even if she didn't understand all the details yet. One night, after a long shift, she sat on her bed reading when she suddenly realized something. She had read 5 pages without stopping to translate a single word. She gasped, shocked, then reread the pages just to make sure she hadn't imagined it. She hadn't. She really had understood them. Warm excitement spread through her, quick and bright like a spark. "Maybe I can do this," she whispered aloud. For the first time, the thought didn't feel like a distant dream, it felt real. She grabbed her notebook and wrote a small sentence at the bottom of the page. "I will finish this book." She underlined it twice. Then she looked at the blue cover again and felt a gentle confidence settle inside her. The first steps had been difficult, very difficult, but they were behind her now. And for the first time, she felt like she was truly walking forward. As the days passed, Lily began to build small habits around the book without even realizing it. She started waking up 10 minutes earlier just to reread the last paragraph she had finished the night before. It became her quiet morning ritual, a gentle way to start the day before the noise of life began. At the bookstore during slow hours, she kept the book hidden under the counter, sliding it out whenever there were no customers. Each time she read even a few lines without needing her notebook, she felt a little stronger, like she was adding invisible bricks to a foundation she had never had before. Mr. Harris noticed her progress without her saying a word. One afternoon he walked past the counter, paused, and smiled when he saw the familiar blue cover in her hands. "You're farther than I expected," he said warmly. Lily blushed, unsure whether to feel proud or shy, but she nodded. "It's still hard," she admitted. "Every day feels like starting again." Mr. Harris chuckled softly. "That's how you know you're learning," he said. His words stayed with her. Learning wasn't supposed to be easy. It was supposed to be a stretch, a challenge, a climb. And she was climbing. One slow, shaky step at a time. At home she added a new habit: sticky notes. She placed them everywhere, on her mirror, her closet, her lamp, even her refrigerator. Each note had a word or phrase from the book that she wanted to remember. Whispering wind. Silver shadows. Hidden hour. Her room slowly turned into a collage of English, a place covered in reminders that she was changing, improving, growing. Some days she felt unstoppable, reading 10 or even 15 pages in a single evening. But other days were heavier. On those days the sentences felt long, tangled, too complicated to untie. She sometimes stared at the same page for 20 minutes without understanding anything, her confidence shrinking like a balloon losing air. On one of those difficult evenings, she closed the book with frustration and leaned back in her chair. "Why is this still so hard?" she whispered, fighting the urge to give up. But then her eyes wandered to the sticky notes across her room. These were all words she didn't know before. Now she recognized them instantly. She realized she had come much farther than she thought. She opened the book again. Slowly, gently, she read the page one more time, and this time it made more sense. The story itself was beginning to pull her forward. She wanted to know what happened next. The secret hour in the book was becoming her own secret, something only she and the characters shared. And every page she conquered felt like another tiny promise kept. Soon the blue book was no longer intimidating. It was a companion, a teacher, a challenge wrapped in paper and ink. And Lily was no longer the girl standing outside the world of English books. She was learning to step inside. Even on the hardest days, she kept going, not because she had to, but because something inside her had begun to change. She was starting to believe she could finish the book, and maybe, just maybe, English wasn't a mountain anymore. It was a path, and she was learning how to walk it. Lily didn't notice the exact moment when English started slipping naturally into her everyday thoughts. It happened quietly, like sunrise slowly filling a room. One morning at the bookstore, a tourist couple walked in holding a city map upside down. Normally Lily would freeze at the possibility of a complicated question, but when they approached her, she felt a surprising calm. "Excuse me," the woman said. "Could you tell us how to get to the museum?" The words felt clear in Lily's ears, not like the usual blur she had to untangle. She answered slowly, carefully, but without panic. "Go straight 2 blocks, then turn left. You'll see it near the river." The woman smiled brightly. "Thank you." Lily nodded, stunned at how natural it had sounded. When the door closed behind them, she stood still for a moment, her hand resting on the counter, her heart fluttering with shock. She had answered without rehearsing, without fear, without her mind going blank. It was her first real victory, and it filled her with a warm, glowing energy that lasted the whole day. Later that afternoon, Lily sat in the reading corner of the store, surrounded by soft pillows and tall wooden shelves. She was reading a particularly emotional chapter of the book, one where the main character discovered that the secret hour wasn't just a magical time, it was also a test of courage. Lily felt strangely connected to that idea. English, in its own way, was her secret hour, something difficult, mysterious, and a little magical. Just as she was about to turn the page, she heard a voice. "You look deep in thought," Mr. Harris said as he walked over. Lily closed the book gently. "I think I finally understand more than half of what I'm reading," she said, unable to hide her excitement. "More than half? That's wonderful," he answered, genuinely proud. "Do you remember when you could barely read 3 pages in an hour?" Lily laughed softly. "Yes, and now I can finish whole chapters." "That's because you didn't give up," he said. "Most people quit when it gets hard." She looked down at the blue cover, tracing the gold letters with her fingers. "I almost did," she admitted. "But I made a promise." "And you're keeping it," he said. "That's what matters." The days continued with more small victories. Sometimes customers asked her for book recommendations, and she found herself understanding their questions better. She still stumbled, still hesitated, but she no longer felt frozen. She started recognizing phrases in conversations around her, catching bits of English songs on the radio, understanding pieces of movie dialogue. Even street signs and advertisements looked different now, less intimidating, more like clues she could finally decode. At home she noticed changes too. Her sticky notes were slowly disappearing because she didn't need them anymore. Words she once struggled to remember now came to her easily. She no longer translated everything in her head. She simply read and understood. One evening, after finishing another big chapter, she placed a bookmark halfway through the book and stared at it in disbelief. She was officially at the middle. She whispered to herself, "I can really finish this." The thought didn't scare her anymore. It motivated her. The secret hour of the story was reaching its climax, and so was her own journey. And for the first time, Lily felt not like a girl who was learning English, but like a girl who could truly use it. The day Lily reached the last chapter felt strangely unreal, as if she had stepped into a moment she had imagined so many times that she wasn't sure it was truly happening. She sat at her desk, the blue book open before her, the warm glow of her lamp reflecting off the gold letters on the cover. Her room was quieter than usual, as if even the air understood the significance of this moment. She took a slow breath and began to read. The final chapter wasn't long, but it was filled with emotion. The main character, after discovering the power of the secret hour and facing her fears, finally stood confident and strong, ready to step into her world with new courage. Lily felt an unexpected connection to the ending. She understood every sentence without stopping, without translating, without doubting. The story flowed smoothly through her mind like a river she had finally learned to swim in. And then, suddenly, she reached the last line. She blinked. She reread it. She turned the page to make sure there wasn't more. There wasn't. She had finished the book. For a moment she didn't move. She simply stared at the closed cover, her hands resting lightly against it, her breath held as if she were afraid the moment would vanish if she moved too quickly. Then the realization hit her all at once. She had done it. She had truly finished her first English novel. She let out a laugh, small and shaky, then leaned back in her chair with tears gathering in her eyes. "I finished it," she whispered to herself. "I really finished it." She grabbed her notebook, the one filled with vocabulary lists, messy notes, and little encouragements she had written to herself, and on the final page she wrote, "Promise kept." The next morning at the bookstore, she carried the book with her, unable to resist sharing the achievement. When she walked in, Mr. Harris looked up from arranging a display of new arrivals. "Good morning, Lily," he said with his usual gentle tone. She held up the book like a trophy. "I finished it," she announced, her voice proud but slightly shaky. For a second, Mr. Harris simply stared. Then his face broke into the warmest smile she had ever seen from him. "Lily, that's incredible," he said, stepping closer. "I knew you could do it." She hugged the book to her chest. "It was hard," she admitted. "Really hard. But somewhere along the way, it stopped feeling impossible." "That's how learning works," he said. "You push through the impossible until one day it isn't." He led her to the counter and opened a small drawer. Inside was a stack of bookmarks with inspirational quotes. He handed her one that read, "Every book you read is another step forward." She smiled. It felt perfect. As the day went on, Lily noticed something new. When customers asked questions, she answered confidently. When she recommended books, she used more English than ever before. And when she looked at the shelves around her, she no longer felt like an outsider staring at a world she couldn't enter. She felt like she belonged. That evening, after closing the store, she walked home with a lightness in her step. She carried not just the blue book, but a new sense of who she was becoming. English was no longer a mystery or a mountain. It was a door she had opened, one she knew would lead to many more stories, many more challenges, and many more victories. And as she placed the finished book on her shelf at home, she whispered to herself with a smile, "This is just the beginning."